Well, hey, welcome back to another episode of the Brand Builder Show. Today's episode is going to be another high-quality episode bringing you loads of actionable information, and the topic today is A-plus content and generally conversion and bringing people to your listing and getting them to buy when they're on there, when you're selling on Amazon. And to help us cover this topic, we've got Daniel on the show today. Daniel, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me here today. Super excited to chat through how we can win on Amazon.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. It's obviously a big topic, a crucial topic, which I'm excited to dive into and hear your thoughts on. Before we do that, let us know a bit about your background, what you've been up to over recent times, and how you've got on to get this knowledge and experience in this industry that you have.
Yeah, so I actually started in 2016, specifically working in a company called Quiver, where I managed the advertising. Well, I was the advertising program when we started. Then we very quickly, I had spent, $7 million my first 2 years at PPC at 5-cent CPCs. So there was a lot of ad spend back then. Since then, I've sold over $2 billion worth of product on Amazon. I now run an agency called Straight Up Growth, where we manage about $50 million a year in spend, about $500 million a year in sales on the platform.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's a wealth of experience there, and as we said, lots of traffic that you're driving, but there are some key things that need to be in place when you're going to drive that amount of traffic. So, looking forward to diving into those things and pulling out some gold in there. Before we do dive into it, our lightning round of questions, favorite 5 we call it. So, your favorite of each of these sort of business topics. So, don't need to give us loads of context, but just give us a little bit that we can go away and research, and it can inspire some brand owners. So firstly, do you have a favorite e-commerce brand?
I really like Goalie. They do so. I'm an Amazon nerd, and I really love how they launch products on Amazon. They use some traditional media like TV, radio, really blow up branded volume, and then they hit the traditional Amazon levers as well, and they launch items faster than anybody I know, so it's always fun.
Okay. Do you say Goalie?
Goalie, yep. They make vitamins. If you look up apple cider vinegar on Amazon, you'll see hundreds of thousands of reviews on their apple cider vinegar.
Is it Golie? Is it? Or...
I think it's Goli.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I like it. It's one clever way to get a trademarkable name is just make up a random name.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe it means something. I don't know, but.
I'm sure it means something, but really it's a very expensive brand person who figured it out. So
yeah, absolutely. Cool. All right. What about a favorite software or tool that helps you run your business?
Man, I love Google Calendar so much. It's like my lifeblood. I keep it public for, I've got 30 folks on my team. And so it's helpful to schedule things and stuff like that. We still use Calendly and other things, but Google Calendar is my Bible.
Nice. Yeah. Have you checked out the off topic? But have you checked out the Google Calendly killer? They're calling it. That you can schedule with.
So we actually, before this phone call, I was working on the combination itself as well. Nice. I'm about to start the integration. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, cool, good stuff. Cool. All right, and what about your favorite organic marketing channel?
Probably tied between TikTok and Amazon. I'd say probably TikTok right now, just because the organic reach is crazy. Also LinkedIn. For my business specifically, it's an amazing channel as well. The organic reach is really, really massive. They're not really super paid channels right now.
Yeah. If you could predict TikTok's organic reach staying as it is, how long do you think that'll be for?
So the organic reach is why they have such strong engagement right now. There's plenty of ad dollars going in. I think really the only risk on when it becomes more of Meta, where it's filled, stuffed with ads, is when they get acquired, which is going to happen, I'm sure, within 5 years or so. One of the social companies is going to have to buy them, or they're going to start losing market share, which is already actually starting to happen in terms of search. Yeah.
Okay. So many questions I want to ask on that, but we'll try and stay focused. What about a paid marketing channel?
Amazon is my favorite channel in the whole world. It's the only channel that your paid advertisement can directly impact your organic sales as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty fun.
Good. And what about a favorite business book, if you have one?
I like the Lean Startup. That was super helpful. I like doing and not just prepping. I think some people, it's like paralysis through overanalysis
Definitely.
versus just actually getting shit done at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's been one of my biggest frustrations is trying to wait till everything's perfect before you get moving forward. But yeah, you got to get moving, hey.
You got to get moving while things are on fire sometimes.
Absolutely, absolutely. Good stuff. I thank you for that. It's good for our audience just to get to know you a bit more and be inspired to go away and research a few things. So they will definitely be doing that, I am sure. We talked obviously about how you have driven a lot of traffic, insane amounts of traffic, really. And so it would be tempting then to talk about how you've done that and PPC, which we can get onto a little bit later. But one of your other areas of expertise is the Amazon listing itself. And I would imagine, without wanting to put words in your mouth, it's kind of had to become that because, when you drive traffic to a listing, it's not a silver bullet that's going to make you loads of money automatically. Maybe 5-6 years ago when you could, run 10% ACOS on an automatic campaign, crazy kind of numbers, but now you have to have an optimized listing. And so firstly, speak to that topic a little bit, and then we're going to really talk about A+ content and how that can really drive more conversions for you. How has PPC changed over the years?
Yeah, great question. So, one of the simplest things, right, measurements that I like to use. When I first started doing Amazon ads in 2016, Amazon did 550 million in ad revenue, right? So CPCs were 5 cents a click. There wasn't really much competition. Driving, efficiency didn't really matter that much because it was so cheap just to get clicks in general. Last year, Amazon did $37 billion in ad revenue, right? And so the competitiveness of of advertising has increased spectacularly, right? And that's why advertising efficiency becomes so important. If you're launching a supplement and you're net new, your starting CPC is $10 to $15 a click, and your average order value is probably less than $19.99, right? So just mathematically, like getting a 10% ACOS isn't even possible with a 50% ad conversion rate, in that methodology. So you have to have more strategy behind it, for sure, just because of the costs alone of PPC. But the secondary piece is, and why this listing component becomes so important, is if it's expensive to acquire those customers, especially if you're net new, why not give yourself the highest chance of those dollars actually converting, right? If you're driving traffic to a non-optimized listing, you have a typically 1 to 4% lower conversion rate than you would if you're just running basic optimizations on your listing itself. And that adds up, right? The more dollars you spend, the bigger the impact of actually doing like some conversion optimization to your listing becomes.
Yeah, definitely. As a rule, are you, with new clients or existing clients that you take on, your overall PPC strategy, is it trying to turn a profit on the first sale still, or have you completely moved to driving organic rank?
So it's usually a combination, right? And really it comes down to the brand goals. I've got brands that have huge dollars, right? I've got a brand that wanted to be the number one item in the keto category. That's one where we really did focus on, one, it's a replenishable item, so we know that new customer acquisition is key because they're going to come back through the LTV. The secondary goal was the organic search volume on non-braided terms is massive in that category. Keto is a sub 1,000th most search term on Amazon every single month. During January, it's a sub 400. We made it the first organic listing. We took the number one market share against that item, but that was, from a predictability standpoint with the client, we built out a forecast where we don't break even until month 9, right? In that model, right? Because of how fast they wanted to go. And at month 9 was the first month we turned a profit. Right now we're in year 2. We're doing 90% of our revenue is organic sales, right? Like last month I did $900,000 organically, for that item. But it was predictable growth, right? Now, not everyone has that luxury, right? There's brands that we work with that need to stay somewhat profitable as they're kind of building it out. And so that's kind of where I go into a strategy of like, identify the terms that you can advertise on, right? Now any item that's net new is going to have some ugly months when they first start, just given the fact that ranking doesn't happen unless you are getting clicks and orders on your search term. But when you build out your listing, you don't start off on page 1 for the majority of search terms itself. 81% of clicks happen on page 1 of any search term on Amazon. So the the tricky part here is that you're starting on page 3. You're not getting the visibility to get orders to rank, and so you need to have PPC running in order to start ranking in the first place. Right, but that's where having a super optimized listing becomes really important, especially if you're net new, you don't have reviews, there's not that trust that's already built, and so your listing optimization becomes way more important when you are net new, compared to an item that already exists and already has reviews and is getting sales and things like that.
Yeah. And A+ content specifically, obviously, is a tool in the armory of brand owners. What is it about A+ content that's so important for brands on Amazon
Great
today?
question. So the simplest answer is the number of users that shop on Amazon on desktop versus mobile, right? Most of us, we're optimizing on our computers when we're building out our Amazon listings. You see your title, your bullet points, your product images are on the side. A+ content, you have to scroll below the fold to really get to. On mobile, which is where 80% of all clicks happen on Amazon, A+ content is super prominent, right? What you're going to see is title, you're going to see product images up right above the fold. As soon as you scroll down, then you're going to actually run into A+ content, and then you hit bullet points last, right? So A+ content actually becomes way more valuable just in the sense of how a user's eye is looking while they're actually shopping through Amazon. So that alone is massive. The other big piece is the flexibility it provides there. Not only can you get images, but you can also change the format of how the listing looks, right? You can call out your USPs or unique selling points in a very interesting, kind of pleasing way. And on top of that, you've got A+ Premium that Amazon just opened up, which opens up even more options, to really give that customer a reason to purchase your item there.
Yeah. Obviously, mobile optimization is massive for e-commerce in general. Because of that reason, A+ content appearing higher is even more important potentially on Amazon. So when you start working with a client and you build out A+ content modules, are you building them just entirely with mobile in mind? Is desktop even a consideration?
I mean, we're mobile first, right? So now the way we build our wireframes, the optimization looks great on both fronts, right? There. And there's ways you can, like, just general pro tip, right? Amazon gives you these widgets, but you can also add text directly, like, in your image itself, right? And you can also start to build how you want your A+ content to look outside of Amazon's traditional means if you're clever on the design front as well. So not only is it, you should keep mobile first, but there's a way to do it where it looks good on both mobile and desktop, right? It's fully optimized there. But mobile first is definitely the idea.
Yeah, definitely. So what does the perfect piece of A+ content look like? Because I've seen brands, and we've sort of tried to replicate it a bit in terms of it's almost like a continuous image,
Yep.
And like what you said, that some of the text is baked into the image, and on desktop it looks amazing, but then you look on mobile and it's so much smaller. What does what is an optimized piece of content look like? Are you using rows of images with text, or is it product by product basis, or do you have like a set format that you go with?
So we've got a couple wireframes that seem to work really well for us in general, but a lot of the time it's just stacking images is like one of our favorite things to do. So the reason it looks so seamless is it's not one giant image. It'll be like 5 images, but they're all sized exactly the same. And we can do a couple things. One thing that we like to do is change it up with, like, let's say it'll be blue here for the color block, then it's white for color block, then it's like yellow there. So now each widget stands out, but it looks very cohesive, right? It looks like almost like an endless scroll page, right? And that's kind of very similar to what a lot of, people do in general, right? If you look at Instagram or Meta, if you look at TikTok, it's literally like swipe. How do I keep the same format going? It'll be different content, but the format never changes, right? Usually between swipe or whatever. And that's kind of the same logic with A+.
Yeah, good. In terms of research going into A+ content, do you have a particular research process? What needs to go into A+ content versus what needs to go into bullet points and main product images? Yeah,
so we run actually a pretty robust analysis when we do content optimization. We do things like scrape your product reviews first, right? And we'll pull out the good and the bad. If there's any sort of consistencies, that might be something we want to address. So if there's something good, like, we'll start to call out those features people really like. So if it's food, it might be like, oh, it's vegan, it's cruelty free. It's, the packaging is sustainable, right? Whatever some of those USPs are. But we'll also pull out some of the bad sometimes as well, because sometimes that could be something as simple as they're using it incorrectly and you're getting negative feedback for that. So a way to but reduce that negative feedback, put instructions on how to use directly in your A+ content. I've seen that be fruitful. We also like to look at brand analytics. Brand analytics gives you customer profile information. So you can see like demographic information in terms of like ages of your typical customers. And you can do this at an item level or as a brand level. You could look at gender, you could look at college education. And so sometimes we factor that into some of the imagery as well. If we might find out it's mainly older women that are purchasing our items, let's use older women in our product imagery, right? If it's men, a lot of men buying it, let's use men in our images for that. So there's definitely some of that we're looking into. We typically also want to keep it on brand, right? Like brand is really important at the end of the day. We don't really sell commodities. We're selling a brand at the end of the day there. And so we like to keep that consistent with your .com, with what you're doing, across the board. So usually working directly with a brand manager is key to get that going. And then the usually two last steps would be keyword research. So we actually will look at the market and identify what are the search terms people are looking at, and including those terms in your content is great, right? Like if you are selling a protein bar and you're keto friendly, get keto friendly in your text, right? You can get it in your images, you can get it in your A+, right? It doesn't just have to be in your bullet points. I find it actually is more fruitful being in your A+ and product images. And then competitor analysis. So usually what we'll do is we'll find where your competitors rank and where they have traffic, and then try to go after some of those same search terms. So it's definitely a methodical approach. There it's not just like, this looks good. It's this looks good, and we're hitting A, B, C, on our unique points there.
Definitely, yeah. Some great tips in there, specifically or especially the data-driven approach. Seeing what the data tells you and then shaping the content around that to really maximize that is, I'm sure a tip that a lot of our listeners will take away and work on now, given the amount of data that Amazon is starting to give us, which is really helpful.
Absolutely.
You mentioned there about competitor analysis. Is competitor comparisons something that you'll do a lot of the time?
Sometimes we'll do a competitor comparison, like widget. Other times we'll do like a cross promotion widget instead. So that's usually one of the wireframes or two of the options. We do like the cross promo, especially if we have a catalog with decent like associated products or things like that. That can be really fruitful. If you're in a really competitive market for, let's say, the item you're really pushing from an ads perspective, we can not push some of the other items, but because we have a comparison module, they will grow as what I call our new customer acquisition product grows. The associated products grow too. So definitely don't sleep on the cross promotion. The comparison though can definitely be fruitful. We usually will also hit comparison with like an actual product image. Sometimes we'll create like our own, us versus them type of comparison. And so if I do that, I don't need to repeat it again, typically in the A+. Typically I'll use the comparison module instead.
Yeah, one thing we started doing with those recently, which found has worked well, is with the comparisons, is saying, like our product, and then calling out the negative sort of maybe connotation. So like cheap this, or like our yoga mat, and then cheap yoga mats to almost sort of justify that higher price. And it seems to be working quite well.
It does. No, it definitely does. And that's another thing. I know we're not talking about price, but Amazon doesn't have to be a race to the bottom from a pricing perspective too, right? If you do the types of things you mentioned, you're putting that high quality in. You can get people to buy more expensive items if you can justify it. Definitely.
In terms of just cold impact on conversion rate, I don't know if it's data you track in terms of a listing without any A+, and then you put A+ on it. It's obviously hard to completely sort of test that, but what kind of conversion rate jump can someone expect to see?
Generally I've seen anywhere from 1% to 4% improvement in conversion rate there. Now it depends on the category, price point, things like that, and how good the job is, but almost always you'll see a big bump in your conversion rate for sure.
Yeah, nice. And just finishing up on, just coming back to, the listing images and A+, do you try and completely avoid any double up, or will you double up because
sometimes we'll double up on really key points, right? Like stuff we want to push across, we'll definitely double up. There, we may try to present it in a slightly different format, so it's not, like I don't want to use the exact same image uh, in my product photos that I'm then going to put in my A plus content, if I can, right?
Yeah.
Usually there's like a brand focused one. Sometimes we'll reuse those, but they're also not sized the same in the way that we typically size our images too. Like the product the images for the product detail page will be different than the images we're going to use size format wise in the A plus, because we use those banner ones across the board in A plus. So because of that, they don't usually look the same, but we may definitely stress the same points for sure.
Yeah.
Especially if there's things people love.
Yeah, and key USPs. If there are those banner type ones, are there any tips you can give people for mobile friendliness? Big text,
So
obviously.
yeah, like I'd say like from a mobile friendliness perspective, they resize really well once you have the sizing. Like as long as your images are done are being uploaded correctly and you're not
Yeah.
having Amazon resize an improperly sized image, they're going to show up great on A plus as well as they're going to show up great on desktop as well as mobile. I definitely recommend do your own text in your images versus using all of Amazon's blockiness, because that definitely can impact the look and feel of it.
Yeah.
And you can keep your own fonts. You can have a lot more flexibility,
Yeah.
and it just looks a lot more seamless for sure.
Yeah. Have you got any brands that people can go and look at that are particular inspiration to you? You think are doing a really good job of this?
Yeah, a couple brands. So on the sports supplement side of things, we have a brand called Performex. They do like fat burning supplements. They've got some really good listings. We have a brand in the energy space called Pure Boost that has some really great listings. I also like this brand Acton Acre. They do like hair care, natural hair care products. They've got some really beautiful listings as well. And then we've got a whole bunch more. Feel free to like reach out to me on LinkedIn if you've got questions. I've got like a list of like proper listings and
Yeah, nice,
that
man.
I like to send to people.
Yeah, good. And then obviously these highly optimized A plus content blocks will help conversion rate on the listing. Are there any other benefits to specifically PPC? You're driving a lot of traffic. Is there anything else that's going to really benefit other than just conversion rate?
Yeah, well, so if your ad conversion rate goes up, right, that typically is going to lead to your A cost going down. The reason your A cost goes down is because your wasted or non-converting ad spend decreases, right? So ad efficiency essentially goes up. So conversion rate's always king. It's going to make obviously direct impact on that A cost. The other thing that it can impact is like from an organic ranking strategy, as your conversion rates get better, now you're driving more orders on those key search terms that you're trying to rank on, and that means you can rank organically faster. So really,
Yeah.
all of what we do is really centered around growing brands organically, and this is one of the most important steps to doing so, right? You need to
Yeah.
have enough traffic, but you need to have a high enough conversion rate to rank on these terms as
Yeah.
well, right? I could spend
Yeah.
20,000, 30,000 a month on a term. If my conversion rate's too low, I'm never going to rank against it, right?
Yeah.
So this is key.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then coming round to PPC, the obviously strategy, the landscape is changing so much as we've talked about versus a few years ago. What does a successful Amazon advertising strategy look like in 2023?
Great question. So the first step, and I think a lot of people miss this, is having a product level ad strategy versus a account level ad strategy, right?
Okay.
In the past, like you could get away with, okay, I'm going to go for like a blended 10% A cost, but that doesn't really mean much because your products are always in different stages of their, Amazon journey as well, right? A well-established item is going to have a low A cost because it already has organic visibility there, and so your goals are going to be probably a little bit more ROAS focused. The problem is when you apply that strategy to a new item that you just launched, right? And you're like, well, I have a 10% A cost on item A, item B should have a 10% A cost too, right? Because why not? There. The gap is you don't have any organic visibility, right? If you look at your sessions, they're going to be super low compared to the item that already has organic visibility. And because you're trying to put the same strategy on, on two different completely different items, right? The second item will never be a success right there because you don't have the right goals in mind. So one, start with a product by product level strategy. It's going to allow you to be really granular, and it's going to allow you to grow everything to the needs that you have, right? Second kind of thing I've been telling brands is less is more. Because Amazon PPC has gotten more expensive, that means every item that you launch or every parent listing, you have to have an ad budget, for that, right? And so if you've got, let's say, a $10,000 a month ad budget and you're launching more and more items, you can't keep diluting that spend by moving it to the other items, right? Because what's going to happen is your sales on your top seller are going to start to slow down because it doesn't have the same number of orders it needs every single month. So it's okay to not advertise every item in your catalog, right? As long as you're giving the items that you are advertising enough spend to make a difference, right? Nothing is worse than spending $200-$300 a month on a product that's not enough to move the needle on, right? So you're just going to really be kind of wasting the dollars at that point. And then third, I'd say like ad efficiency, right? A lot of, I'll probably did like 200 ad audits last year. One of the biggest themes I saw in probably 85-90% of the accounts is a high degree of wasted spend. And typically what that means is you're not harvesting keywords out of research match types, your auto, your broad, your phrase. You're leaving them in there and you're becoming dependent on those match types that historically don't convert on 30 to 60% of the spend. There. You're looking at it at a high level. The way you drive down or drive up the ad efficiency is by moving those terms from research into exact match types. So now more of your spend you are directly controlling versus controlling buckets of keywords or an auto campaign in which you're really not controlling very much at all there. And that'll help a lot. Yeah.
From a sort of top level view, I know it would take ages to go into a granular level, but campaign structure, is it a traditional model of lots of keywords in a research campaign and then exact match in another campaign, or are you getting very single keyword campaigns?
A little bit more granular than that. I'd say so we're going to segment your branded versus non-branded. Should always be segmented, I'd say. There, that way you can control the levers. Like we focus typically 90% of our spend on non-branded, but there are times when you want to like spike it up or drive it down, right? So that segmentation is important. We're typically going to have your basic research campaign. We're going to have what we call like a performance campaign or exact match campaign. This is all for non-branded. We're going to have sort of an auto. And then really as those search terms are coming in real time, we're harvesting. Now we may start to create additional groupings, like it's good to have a competitor segment, could be fruitful, so you could drive that down. We do break out individual search terms, not for every term, but specific ones that we're either trying to rank on or we have some specific reason why we don't want those in our main campaigns. And really, like, the more organized you are, the easier it is to make adjustments, right? Like, I don't think there's a golden campaign structure, but it's a golden campaign structure as long as you're able to optimize properly, right, and really move the terms. Really, the downside of like having too many terms in one campaign is, let's say 90% of your spend goes against 10% of the keywords in that campaign, right? And so now you're missing out on all these other terms that could be good, they could not be good, but because the campaign structure isn't there or you're not diligent enough about making those optimizations, now you can end up sleeping on potential winners,
Yeah, definitely. And then just rounding up and finishing off, in terms of the future of PPC, where do you see the things go in the next year or two? Is it going to keep getting more expensive? How do you see the landscape?
So I mean, look, Amazon's ad business grew 37% like quarter over quarter last year for December, like from a year over year basis. So, and that's a slowdown from 50% is where it had been, at prior to that. So the inflation is slowing down, but we still haven't plateaued, right? Amazon still has way cheaper acquisition costs than any other platform, that exists, right? If you're running Google AdWords, like you can't get these type of conversion rates on non-branded traffic. It's expensive from a CPC perspective, but Amazon has the highest conversion rates that exist. So there's still going to be more dollars coming in. I'm starting to work more with like some enterprise level brands, and they haven't even dipped their toes into Amazon really yet, but they are, coming in, and I know the types of budgets they'll bring to the table. So there will be more ad inflation, and that's why it's important just to really strengthen yourself and give yourself the highest chance of success, right? We launch against bigger brands all the time, and we win against bigger brands all the time, but it's because we're a lot smarter with the dollars, right? Like, I'm like Amazon's choice on and off for the term pre-workout against a brand that has because I know the CMO there 10 to 15 times the ad budget on a monthly basis that I have, right? But I've still been able to sneak in and take market share because of things like optimizing our listings in a certain way, right? Because we're so efficient with the ad spend, our ad spend can go a little bit further than someone who has bigger dollars sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy how many big brands still have the simplest of listings with.
Oh, it's crazy. Some of those audits I go into and I'm like, wow, this is what you're doing? This is how you get a couple million a month on Amazon?
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome, man. I feel like this has been just like an absolute just trainload of good information for people to go away with. Have you got sort of like one final last action, like top tip for Amazon sellers going into, the new world of selling on Amazon?
Yeah, I'd say know your market, right? There's plenty of tools out there, tools like Helium 10, there's Jungle Scout. If you're looking to launch or you're already a seller, with those tools, you can kind of get a sense of like, what's the size of the prize? Am I really where I need to be? But you can also know how competitive something is before you get into it, right? I know plenty of sellers that they've got a great product, but at the end of the day, they just don't know what they're getting into, and that's why they don't succeed, right? Amazon at the end of the day is just a visibility channel, so check your sessions, check your conversion rate. Those two KPIs will give you so much information just off those two things alone. Amazon has a lot of noise, but those are really the only two things that matter at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Final one. Speaking of tools, do you guys lean on PPC tools or you do a lot manual?
So we use a combination. We've got API access with Amazon directly, so we have some tools we build out for reporting and market share tracking. We do use a technology partner. There's quite a few out there. I recommend like a tool that is rule-based ideally. So like we leverage IntentWise has a fully automated version. I use them in a rule-based model where we kind of create our own rules there, but it allows me to do automations and be extremely efficient with my ad dollars, but also have the flexibility to, advertise in the way that I like to advertise.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff, man. This has been super valuable and I really appreciate you taking time out. If people do want to find out more about the agency and what you're up to, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm just Daniel Tejada on LinkedIn, or our website, straightupgrowth.com.
Nice. We'll leave the links for those in the description and show notes, obviously, as well. Thanks again. Really appreciate you coming on.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate the time.
No worries. Well, thanks, guys, for listening as well. Make sure to check out those resources in the show notes in the description below. And we'll see you in the next episode, same time next week. Take care.